Right, we've seen the challenge. So the challenge is to build this application. So I hope that you figured out how to do this. If you had trouble, we will quickly go through this video. If you did not have trouble at all, you can just skip this video. So I'm going to go through every step on how to build this simple application. The first thing we'll need is the picture. So you can go and search for thermometer PNG transparent and go to, if you search there, it will give you this page. You can go to tools, labeled for reuse, and then you'll see the picture there on the right hand side. So this should be the picture. I'm going to open it up in a new tab there, and you can see it is transparent. So I'm going to copy it from here. So I'm going to save the image save it to the desktop as thermometer, and you can save it. And I've already got the picture there, so just save your picture on the desktop or wherever you want to save it so that you can have quick access to it. Right, so if you've got the picture, this will be the color design that we're going to use. So I'm going to go to materialpalette.com. I'm going to use the brown and then the deep orange as the accent color, and these are the colors that we will use. So, and we'll quickly have a look at this web page to just get what we need to do in coding again. So this is then the application that we want to create. So firstly, get to this picture that you copied or that you saved on the desktop, and just copy that picture so that we can open it up in Android Studio. So let's go to Android Studio, and we're going to create a new Android Studio project, and I'm going to call this one Cricket Thermometer, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so for the rest, we can leave it as it is. Let's use it as KitKat 4.4, and then empty activity, next, leave it as the main activity, backwards compatible, and say finish. So we'll come back when the Android Studio is loaded, and we can start with the app. Right, so we're back at Android Studio, and we can now start with the application. So the first thing that we'll do is to go into the resources drawable folder, and you're going to paste that picture that you copied. Make sure it goes into the drawable folder, say OK, and OK again. And now the thermometer PNG file is now saved inside of your drawable folder, and we can have access to it. So let's go into the main activity and see if we can quickly do this layout. I think firstly, let's go to the colors XML and quickly get the colors. So from the website, this is the dark primary color. So just select it, go back to Android Studio, and that will be your dark color. I'm going to paste it there. I'm going to go back to the website. This will be my primary color. So there's the primary. Then also the accent color. There's the accent color. Paste it. So these three colors were provided for us. So we'll add another one there with the name color primary light. Right, and then we can go to the website again, get the primary light color, and then paste it there. So we've got the following color scheme, and now we can start working with this application. Okay, so there's the color scheme. You can already see the colors implemented there. So we're going to go into the text property and change the constraint layout there to a linear layout. Make sure that when you're using a linear layout, then the orientation should be vertical, and we're going to remove the text view. Now, we've got a blank page there. Let's go back to text and just set the background property there to a color primary light so that we can get the background color as that light color. Okay, so now the first thing that we need to do there is basically to get the picture as the first part. So how do we get the picture there? We will go to image view, drag in the image view to the screen. And then let's look at the drawable part there. Go into your project and you can see your thermometer there. So I'm going to use that one. Click on OK. Now it spans the whole screen. So let's make the width 120 and let's make the height 140. Something like this. It doesn't really matter how big you have that thing at the top. Right, so now we want to move it to the middle. So if you look at the device there, you can see it should be in the middle of your device. So in the middle of the screen. So let's just move it to the side a bit. So if you click on this component, we can go to the layout gravity and center it horizontally. You can also see that it's a small bit from the top, so we can go and set the top margin for, let's say, 10 there or something. Okay, so then directly after that, you can see that we've got a text view there. So now the next thing, let's drag in a text view. So drag in the text view, and that should come directly underneath your picture. There's the text view, and you can see that that text view is a bit from the sides. So it's up to you how far you want to make those values, but we're going to have a left of, let's make it 20, and a right of 20, and then maybe a top margin of 10 as well. Okay, then we can go down and set the text style to bold, and I think we can also set the gravity property there. So let's go to the normal gravity and set it to center horizontal. So the text view will look like this. And then I want you to quickly just type in the text that I'm going to give you now. And this text is basically this that you had there on this specific device. So you can just type that in the text property of the text view. Did you know you can determine the temperature outside by counting the number of chirps the cricket makes? Just count the number of chirps one makes in 25 seconds and place that number in the box below. Okay, so that's the text that you need to have there. So you can see that was the text. Now the next part, and because we don't want to set the text on this, it's not needed for us to actually have an ID there. So the next part will be this edit text. So we're going to drag in an edit text, and remember that the user will be entering a number there. So it's better to take the number 1. Now on the left and right margins, we can set the left also to 20, the right also to 20, and maybe the top to 10 as well, just to move it down a bit. Now we want a hint property inside there. So let's go to hint. Now look at the hint there. If I remove that, it says number of chirps in 25 seconds. So I'm going to say number of chirps in 25 seconds. Right, so in order to get that in the middle of the screen, we're going to use the gravity property again and say center horizontal. And now it's in the middle of the screen. Right. So let's just look at this one again. It seems basically the same. We can maybe move this one down a bit, so we'll have a top margin there of 15. Right. Now the next part is the button. So we'll include the button then next, and another text view at the bottom. So where's the button? Drag in the button. For that button, let's make the margins also the same. On the left, 20. On the right, we'll have 20 as well. And then just move it from the top a bit, let's say 10 or so. Now for the background for this, you can go to the background property there and just start typing color, and you should get your primary color there. So I'm going to use it as, let me just see there, probably, I think it's the dark color there. So let's use the color primary dark, and then what we can do is to make the text on it white. So let's go right to the bottom, make it bold, and the text color we'll make #12345 so that becomes a white color. Right, so far I think maybe it's the normal. Let's make it the normal one, the color primary. Okay, so there we've got the button, and the text on the button, if you look at that example again, should be calculate temperature. So the text, calculate temperature, calculate temperature. Right, so far I think we've got the layout basically the same. So we've got number of chirps in 25 seconds, calculate temperature, and then the only thing we need is again the text view at the bottom. Right, so just drag the text view then again underneath that button, and then for that text view we can set the margin at the top as, let's say, 20 as well, on the left 20, on the right 20, and we can also use the gravity property to set it centered, center horizontal. And then I think also we can set the text style to bold at the bottom. Right, so this is basically the layout. So let's just compare the two layouts quickly. It should be basically the same. So we've got the picture, we've got the text view, we've got the number of chirps, we've got the calculate temperature, and we will set the text there. Right, so the components that we want the user to interact with is this one. He needs to type something there. So I'm going to call that one ET Chirps. For this one, I'll call it BTN, let's say, calculate. And for this text view, we'll say TV results. Right, so we've got three components. We've got ET Chirps, we've got BTN calculate, and we have TV results. So let's go and set them up in coding quickly. So in coding, we've got an edit text. So there's the edit text, ET Chirps. We've got a button. And the button was called BTN calculate. By the way, if you're missing an import statement there, you can just use Alt-Enter and import the class. So that's BTN calculate, and then for the text view, we can say TV results. Right, so there's the three components that we want. So let's set them up. ET Chirps equals find view by ID r.id.et chirps. Okay, that one is fine. And then we'll have BTN calculate equals also find the view by its ID r.id.btn calculate, and we'll have TV results equals find the view by its ID r.id.tv results. Right, so all three components are set up now in coding, and now what we normally want to do right from the start is to set the visibility for the results text view to be gone, which means if you start off the application, this text view will not show to the user. Okay, so the next part is then to code the button. So the button is BTN calculate. We're going to set the on-click listener, just say new on. You'll see the link there. Click it right from the top and it creates the next for you. Okay, so we've got BTN calculate. So what do we want to do? If the user types in a value there, we want to get that value. So firstly, we must check if the user is actually typing something there. So we're going to say if ET Chirps .getText.toString.is empty. So we're checking if the user is typing something there. If it's empty, we will just let the user know by using a simple toast, and we'll have the text as please enter all fields. The else part will be if the user actually entered something there. So if he entered a value there, which will be a number, we can now start doing the calculation. So let's just go to the website again and see the calculation. So basically the calculation will be whatever the user types divided by 3 and then plus 4. Let's go to Android Studio. So what we'll need is to get first what the user typed. So I'm going to say int chirps will be integer.parseInt, and that's just converting a string basically to an integer. So what we get from the user is a string. So I'm going to say etchirps.getText.toString.trim just to get get rid of the leading and the trailing white space. So this part there is a string, and we're converting that string to an integer to have an integer number of chirps. Now we can say, well, the double temperature will be the number of chirps, and then if you look at your website again, the number of chirps divided by 3, and then we add 4. So we divide that by 3. So after that, we will add 4 to it, and that will become our new temperature. So it's the chirps there. We get the chirps from the user. We calculate the temperature, which will be the number of chirps divided by 3. And the reason why I put a 3.0 there is because this is an integer, and if both sides of the division operator in Java is an integer, you'll get integer division, which means it throws away the decimal part. So one of the two sides must be a double if you want to have it as a double. So I divide by 3.0, not just 3, and then at the end we plus 4. Right, so let's just create a string to display this to the user. So we're going to say results equals, now what do we want to tell the user? So we want to say something like, let's just have a look at the example again, the approximate temperature outside is. Okay, so we're going to say the approximate temperature outside is, and then we show our temperature. Now let's go back to that example. We show the temperature and then we say degrees Celsius. Degrees Celsius. So the approximate temperature outside is whatever we calculated, and we say degrees Celsius after that. So I think that should be fine for that text view. So then after that, we will say TV results, which is the text view, and we will set the text on it as this results that we just created. Okay, so this should work, except for when we get a temperature that when divided by 3 will give you a very big decimal number. So if you want to do this, it's not necessary. I'm going to define a decimal formatter here. So I'm going to say decimal formatter. And somewhere here, we can just say formatter equals new decimal format, and we indicate the format in which we want our number to be formatted. So I'm going to have a hash 0.00, which will mean basically it's going to give it to us as 2 decimal places, or if you only want 1 decimal place, after the dot only 1 0, and for the rest doesn't matter what's there, it's going to show the rest. So now we can go to this temperature variable and say formatter dot format and just pass in that variable called temp. So we're going to use this format, this pattern, to format this specific temperature that we worked out. Okay, so I'm going to run this application quickly. Let me just open up the other one. I'm going to close this application now. You can see it's basically called temperature cricket, the one which was the example, and ours is called a cricket thermometer. So let's run that one quickly on the device and see how it displays. Right, so it installs the app, and you can see there's the thermometer picture. Did you know how you can determine the temperature, and then the value that we can test for is, let's say 48 there, and we should get 20. Okay, so we forgot to set that TV results back to visible. So I'm just going to say TV results dot set visibility, and it will be view dot visible. So let's just run it again. Should not take long this time. All right, and there it runs again. So I'm going to try 48 again, calculate the temperature, and it says the approximate temperature outside is 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is basically the application. I hope that you got this one correct, and this one was an easy one, but it's an important one for you to realize how the components on the screen works and how they fit together to work together. We can also try something else. 32 will get a 14.7 degrees Celsius, and because we formatted it with this decimal format, we've got a nice output of just 1 decimal place.